Hi.
Hey guys, how are y'all? There was an accident here. We were scooting over into the camera view and Michelle hit her knee.
This is Michelle.
And this is Mark.
And this is Mark and Michelle.
And Michelle, that's right. And with a hurt knee. Well, guys, thank you for checking out our book. We appreciate it.
Hi,
Krista, and appreciate you checking out our book. Let other people know about it.
So our podcasters need to know to go to healyourautism.com and download the book.
Exactly. If you go to healyourautism.com, it is there.
It's called Buried Alive, One Man's Journey Out of Autism.
Yep, it is awesome. It you'll find different chapters, which are really lives that we've taken, and Michelle has transcribed. That's the word.
Yes.
And
we added material.
We did, and you'll find it very interesting.
There's lots of links in there. There's a glossary.
Mm-hmm. And we've gotten lots of good reviews on it so far. So, Taj, how's it going? But what we wanted to talk to you guys tonight about is something that has been on my mind for quite a while. You know, we've said before, I was going to say in the past, but that is before. But I was going to say, okay, now I'm stuck.
In the past, we have said
that all improvement, any improvement
is a good thing.
Is a good.
Wow.
Okay, now we're really messed up. Anyway, let me see if I can get that out in better words. Any improvement is an improvement.
Yes.
Okay.
So in autism, if you improve a little at all, it makes life easier.
That is true. But something that we see quite often is people treating and doctors treating one symptom of autism thinking that that's all the autism is. And now.
Hi, Marlo.
Hey. Now, I'm going to quote another guy listening to on another podcast. He likes to say, I am the leading expert in my own opinion. Right? I am the leading expert in my autism. And so for me, in my experience, there was more than one cause to my autism. And we talked about that in previous weeks, what we think the causes of autism are. And I'll list them real quick. Heavy metal poisoning, a stagnant liver, strep infections, streptococcus infections, viral infections, and gut damage. Now, we've talked about all of that stuff in the past. You'll see that. You can find that in our past broadcasts, but podcasts, lives, either way. But we just want to point out that treating for just heavy metals doesn't solve the issue for you. It clears up one area. But what's interesting is I was reading through the Nemechek protocol, the Andy Cutler method, the ACC method. And for those of you who don't know, the ACC method is Andy Cutler chelation method, used to remove mercury from your body. And it is quite involved, to be honest. There are 3 chemical compounds. 2 of them I don't think you can get without a prescription. That's the DMSA and the DMPS. But the other one, ALA, or alpha-lipoic acid, that you can get over the counter. Now, that is the main one in Andy Cutler chelation. Well, the main chelator, the main thing to remove heavy metals. But the method is involved. You have to take the ALA, the alpha-lipoic acid, wait for 2 hours or 3 hours, then take the next compound, the DMPS, I think it is, and then the next, and then wait for 2 or 3 more hours, and then take the next one. You do a round of those chelators over a period of about 3 days. So 3 days and the 2 intervening nights for a total of about 64 hours at a minimum, if I understand that correctly. And that being the case, you have to be perfectly consistent in taking those chelating compounds. So that means you have to set an alarm clock and wake up during the middle of the night, maybe twice or 3 times, to get those chelating compounds into your system. And then after that 64-hour period, you take a break, and then you start another round. It can sometimes take as little as months or as long as years to get these metals out of your system. And so while that's a great method, that isn't the only issue with autism. And the reason I tend to say that is because when you look at ACC, it only takes out metals, right? Oh, there you go. It's in focus now. And so that only takes out one thing. I got rid of the heavy metals in me, but then I had strep infections and viral infections that I didn't know were part of it. So I had to deal with these two as well, because the viruses, according to medical medium, destroy your nerves over a long period of time, and because they create neurotoxins. Well, you need to treat the viral infections to keep the nerve damage from continuing. So that brings, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, and then there's the liver, and even the gaps failed you in that.
That is true.
That respect, because you started regressing and then you plateaued and nothing else was happening. And now we know it's because your liver became so stagnant and you were starting to look inflamed again.
Well, you know, what's interesting is the first about year on the gaps, when you see pictures of me, I look healthy.
Yes.
But then after that, after about a year and a half, I started to get inflamed again.
So it did help with the gut damage.
It did help with the gut damage. The gaps did.
The gaps,
but that, but truthfully, it didn't help with any of these others. Now, what I mean by liver here, in case you guys don't know, is a backed up liver, a liver that has slowed down its detoxing function because it has been overloaded with fat or overloaded with toxins, whether metals or anything else. Viruses, bacteria. Dead bacteria. Your liver also takes care of dead red blood cells. Probably takes care of other types of blood cells as well, but I know it definitely breaks down and degrades and detoxes dead red blood cells.
And I just want to say we're coming from the viewpoint of medical medium.
We are, because he talks about treating all of this for your health, not just autism.
So you were talking about metals right here, the Andy Cutler, and I wanted to, and you had.
Well, let me say one thing before we move on. Bring that back up here, because I want them to see that. So medical medium, like I was saying a second ago, medical medium talks about all this in treating your health, no matter what your issues are. So if you treat all of these issues for your health and you have autism, then all that means is autism is just a medical condition. Just poor health. That's all it means. It's nothing special. It's nothing untreatable. It's nothing unrecoverable.
And it's metal poisoning.
Metal poisoning for one, with a backed up liver that can't handle the viruses, the strep, or the metals. And your gut gets damaged because your liver can't handle those three things. Now, you were going to say.
So what I wanted to say about metals, you said that Andy, did you say the ACC was the one you had to have the three different chelators?
Okay,
because they kept dropping them.
Right, because one chelator, the first chelator would lose its bond strength on the molecule it was chelating out, in this case mercury. And so then you'd have to take the second chelator so that it could pick up and continue carrying the molecule that the first one dropped. Then after a while you'd have to take the third chelator, because that's how Andy Cutler designed it. You'd take the third chelator to pick up where the second one dropped the molecule, dropped the ball, so to speak.
So that leads me to the heavy metal detox smoothie that medical medium suggests. And the 5 ingredients, spirulina, he says it draws out heavy metals from your brain,
good, that's what you're
central nervous system, and liver. It soaks up heavy metals extracted by barley grass juice extract powder. So it's taking it from the barley grass. Now we get to barley grass. Prepares the metals for complete absorption by the spirulina. This grass has the ability to draw heavy metals out of your spleen, intestinal tract, pancreas, thyroid, and reproductive system. Now we get to cilantro. Goes deep into hard to reach places, extracting metals from yesteryear. So it's great for that mercury inheritance you're carrying around.
And most of us are.
Then we get to the wild blueberries. It draws heavy metals out of your brain tissue, healing and repairing any gaps created by oxidation when the heavy metals are removed. It is important to use the wild blueberries as they possess unique phytonutrients with special detoxifying capabilities. They also reverse any oxidative damage left behind by the heavy metal removal, which is really important because I read yesterday, any adrenaline that you get sent up to your brain makes those metals melt, and that rust is dripping off into your brain. It's gross to think about. So wild blueberries clean that up. Then you get to the dulse. In addition to mercury, this edible seaweed binds to lead, aluminum, copper, cadmium, and nickel. Unlike other seaweeds, Atlantic dulse is a powerful force for removing mercury on its own. Atlantic dulse goes into deep hidden places of the digestive tract and gut, seeking out mercury, binding to it, and never releasing it until it leaves the body. So all of these ingredients are important. He says it's like passing the football.
Yeah, passing the molecule literally, but
Making
more
sure it
metaphor.
comes out.
Exactly. Until you get a touchdown. You know, for those of you who know American football, and I don't know what it'd be in other football. A goal. There you go.
Okay, so you wanted to talk about B12.
B12. Okay. Now, I have heard people say, "Oh, well, I've just given B12 shots to my kid, and he no longer has any autism symptoms." Well, okay. Now, medical medium talks about taking B12 because it reverses the damage that the neurotoxins from the viruses, everybody write down there, from the viruses, because the viruses release neurotoxins that damage your nerves. The B12, the special kind of B12 that he talks about, that he recommends, is a combination of two different types of B12.
So even if you are doing the B12 injections, you're not getting the right kind of B12.
Mm-hmm. Now, and so his recommended B12 works really well for repairing nerve damage. Now, here's the thing: if you just rely on B12 to handle the nerve damage, and the Nevichek protocol relies on inulin and omega-3s to cut down on the bacterial infections in the intestine, and the omega-3s to help reduce propionic acid in the brain, in which case he says that's one of the big factors in autism. He's only treating one area of that. He's not even treating for viruses or strep or metals or liver. He's treating gut damage, which is only one area of it. And so gut damage alone.
Well, the B12 will help what the virus is damaged.
Exactly. The B12 will help the nerves, but
you still haven't taken care of the virus.
Exactly. So if you've got these viruses running rampant in your system, and not just bacteria like strep, but viruses, then it's the viruses that are damaging the nerves. So you have to clear up the attendant infections, and that would be viruses and strep, but mainly viruses for the B12 to actually, the correct type of B12 to actually repair the nerves. Right?
Yes.
So you can't just treat one of these symptoms and expect autism to go away, because it isn't just one. And at least it wasn't for me. And knowing other parents who have worked on their kids, listening to their stories, it wasn't just one symptom. And so you have to treat all of those, mainly the liver. If you were to treat just the liver, everything else would fall into place.
Right, so the less fat you eat.
Exactly, and that's medical mediums. That's his main principle in his diet, is you treat the liver and everything else works itself out. But you can work on this other stuff and treat the symptoms until the liver gets well.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing his diet, you don't have to use some of those chelators in the Andy Cutler method. You have to keep an eye on those, because those can cause damage.
You have to check the liver.
You have to check the liver. And
if you have to check the liver, how's the liver getting better?
Exactly. And if you're overloading the liver with those different chemical compounds, then you're just adding more work to the liver. It's just going to bog down and break down even more. In the Nemetschek protocol, it sounds great, but you're only treating gut damage. And if you're decreasing inflammation in the brain, you're not actually helping repairing the nerve damage that's in the brain.
Well, and wasn't he the one who wanted fish oil?
Fish oil.
And medical medium says
Medical
that
medium,
full of mercury.
It is. It's full of heavy metals and mercury more than likely. And here's the reason I agree with him on that. Since I work at Whole Foods, we're very particular. The company is very particular about where they get their fish for their seafood departments. And they have their seafood shipments checked for mercury levels. And so they find that important. If they find it, to me, if a grocery store finds mercury levels in seafood important, I'll guarantee you they're just as important in the supplemental industry. And it may be that people aren't even checking those. So I would watch out for omega-3s as well.
There is a plant-based omega on medical medium if you need that.
Yes, we can post that if you're interested. But anyway, again, in my experience, my autism was more than one symptom. It was more than the metals. It was more than the gut damage. It was more than the strep or the viruses, because I worked on these while I had the metals. Mm-hmm. But that didn't.
So let's talk about the gaps. What did the gaps work on?
The gaps worked on gut damage for me. And it didn't really help any of these other things. Only the medical medium has actually helped these other things. Now, what do I do for strep and viruses? He has a list of about 7 supplements that he uses for strep and viruses. And so I take that. Well, that has really controlled any of my PANDAS symptoms, strep and viruses, controlling those. Metals, the heavy metal detox smoothie, I've done that for a total of 2 months now over the past year and a half. And that 2 months worth of the heavy metal detox smoothie has removed a lot of the food that the viruses and the strep eat, the heavy metals.
But also the celery juice strips the viruses.
That's true.
Of their outer shell.
Mm-hmm. And some viruses do have an outer shell, some don't. But the ones that that seem to be causing trouble, the celery juice comes along and strips that outer protein coat called the capsid off the outside of a virus.
So celery juice is important for strep and viruses as well,
mm-hmm.
not just fixing your gut.
Exactly.
And your liver.
But the liver is the main thing according to MM. And you know what? It makes sense. That's that organ is your biggest detoxing organ other than your skin. And your skin obviously covers more surface area, but your liver actually purposefully detoxes your blood of toxins. And so if that isn't working properly, everything else is going to break down.
We even talked about the
hyperbaric oxygen treatments. I remember someone saying, I put one of my kids through hyperbaric oxygen treatments. And now he has no symptoms. Well, when I saw him, he was still very withdrawn. He didn't look me in the eye. He didn't interact with me at all. And we're talking about a 12 or 13-year-old kid. And, she was very proud that she had put him through hyperbaric oxygen treatments.
Well,
I'm not knocking that.
Probably was better.
Well, and to her, probably. But I don't think he was going to be very functional at the level of better I saw.
So we kind of wonder if it was the backed up liver and the oxygen added to his body helped bring oxygen into his blood.
Well, doesn't medical medium say that a poorly functioning liver
takes oxygen out of the blood?
Uh-huh.
It makes thick blood.
Okay. And so since that's the case, I'm not seeing how a hyperbaric oxygen treatment is really going to treat anything. Now, that's just me. But from what I saw, and this was post-treatment, I was really surprised at how withdrawn he was. So anyway,
we really feel like diet is the best way to do this.
It is all natural diet and a few supplements, because you don't have to worry about chemicals that you have to constantly monitor in your bloodstream. You don't have to worry about treating just one symptom. Doing the medical medium stuff is actually working on the viruses, the strep, the heavy metals, and the liver for me all at once. And when the liver clears up, the gut is going to continue to clear up too. But I haven't had any trouble with gut for few years now, to be
Yeah.
honest. So really, doing the medical medium, the all diet thing, really is going to be your best bet, because you can avoid.
It's a lot less expensive too.
Well, you can avoid costly doctor visits. You can avoid costly specialist visits or alternative medicine doctor visits. The medical medium diet is really just, you're going to eat anyway.
Yeah.
So why not just eat good, healthy food for you?
Yes.
Fruit and veggies. You can come back to the meat later on a little bit lift once you get a little bit, once you get healthy, if you want to do that. But truthfully, fruits and veg, and I wouldn't have said this a few years ago. I would have thought it was a joke. But really, just do it the all-natural way with food. And, you know, people say you can't cure autism with that. Well, I don't know. I know people who used to have all the symptoms of autism and now don't. So, you know, if they don't want to believe you, then that's their problem. But that it really does. I don't have the symptoms that I used to have because she watched me lose them all.
Yeah. And I wrote about it. And there's a book called Buried Alive, One Man's Journey Out of Autism that you can download at www.healyourautism.com.
Exactly. And do it tonight because
Yes.
you'll love the book.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Have your heavy metal detox
smoothie, the celery juice, and the lemon water. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night at 10:45.
Bye, guys.
Bye.